Hello there. As we get started, just kind of switching over, I'm going to be creating some, there we go, cool. All right, took a second, but good to see you guys. I'm going to go over how to create your own emoji. Yeah, so it's actually pretty straightforward. What's up, Mark, Manassas, Pearly Cream Cheese, Omar, good to see you guys. Fantastic, Thomas. Again, sorry for that slight delay, but here I am. Let me take these out. Do I really need these? That's the big question. It's good to see you guys. Good to see some familiar faces, as always. So, yes, perfect. Just checking the audio. All right, cool. Let's get this party started, huh? Shall we? David Manassas, let's do this. So I actually already have some emojis created. Also, last week I started working on Groot. So again, we all love Groot, so that's the plan. Robzilla in the house. Rob is actually in San Francisco somewhere. Yeah, so I'm actually in the studio, basically like the audio room, essentially, because it's nice and quiet here. All right, but that's what's going to be happening. Faisal, how you doing, buddy? Okay, so again, you can create any type of emoji that you want. I actually created this Groot because there's actually a contest going on that you may or may not be aware of, but there's this Disney emoji as told by you. Okay, so there's this contest going on, which is why I made Groot last week, just as an FYI. So that's why I will paste that in there. I'm going to paste the link in the chat. There it is. Perfect. So again, Disney emoji as told by you. Please take a look at the do's and don'ts and official rules, because you do have to be enrolled in a post-secondary school, so you got to be in college, and you have to be between like 18 and 24. But you could go hang out with some of the people you'll get to go to LA, where you get to hang out with the Disney Interactive folks making cool stuff. So make sure you check that out, guys. Just a shameless plug, I guess. But it's really cool. And I'll just kind of move that over. And that's why I made Groot. So you can find this stream. Actually, I did this on Facebook a little bit ago, but how do you do this? And actually, where did all these little characters come from? What's up with that? All right. Shankar, first time live. Fantastic. That's so cool. Which is why I'm gonna toast you. Cheers. Probably looks like a beer, but it's actually kombucha. All right, so where did these characters come from? Yes, we could create these from scratch, okay? It's actually pretty straightforward. So if you do want to create your own sort of standard emoji, what is it going to take? Well, it's as simple as, sort of creating that circle, and actually I'll just clear this one out altogether. Obviously, like creating that circle, giving it a certain fill color, so I can give it that same fill color if I want to, or a different one. And the key thing is just to have the stroke really thick. Okay, so I'd crank this up to about 16 to 20. Okay, so 16 is pretty good, but these bold colors, this is what you want to go with. Like these thick lines is what makes it look good. Okay, so again, this is sort of starting to make your own custom emoji. The eyes, and we can look at plenty of examples, probably will be, sort of this oblong, but they might have a little bit of a sort of like a sheen or a glossiness to them, okay? So that's why for this fill, I'd actually jump in and go into gradients and give it a nice linear gradient. So tip number 2, again, tip number 1 is to keep the lines really thin or really thick, okay, and not thin. That'll make it look a lot better. And keep your gradients really subtle, okay? So I'm just going to go from just a slight, say a black to a super dark gray, okay? It's those subtleties are what matters, okay? Choose the gradient tool. We could just do something like that. Click and drag to duplicate. If you double click, I'm going to use the reflect tool. I'll double click on it, and that will allow me to flip it vertically like that. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Oh shoot. Sorry about that. Maybe the music was a little bit too loud. I should have put in my other earphones. I turned it down. Hopefully that's better. Let me just keep this one in. All right, fantastic. Hey, Fashal, like you're really saying hi a lot. I think we only need one, buddy, because I don't wanna have to put you in a timeout. All right. Perfect. All right, so let's move on, because quite frankly, what I could also do, rather than making a smiley face like I'm doing right now, and I will do the smile really fast, an easy way to do this is to actually come in here and just use the pencil tool. If you double click on the pencil tool, you'll get the pencil tool options. Okay, so I can say, hey, you know what? Let's make this, say, more smooth and less accurate. But if you take this clear down to smooth, click OK. And again, we'll just make sure this is a stroke that's set to like 16 pixels. I can make this obviously look really smooth as I go in there, okay? And then I can use my direct selection tool to manipulate these points, okay? Is there a shortcut to flip? No, unless you define one. I think I can, but I usually just double click on the tool and flip it, because it allows me to flip it vertically or horizontally. Another way to do it is if you right click, you can go into transform and you can go into reflect that way, pearly cream cheese. So boom, and then you have access to that same menu. I haven't set it up as a shortcut, and I think I should. Pearly cream cheese, here's another one, guys. So like, I'll use this BZA, or excuse me, I will use the direct selection tool to manipulate BZAs, right? And people will typically pull this out and they'll bend these lines. But if you just roll over the line, look what you get. Try to zoom in on that. Hopefully it's coming through right. This allows me to curve. This is the path curvature tool. So this will allow me to just click and drag. I don't have to worry about manipulating these individual points. I can say, hey, you know what? Let's curve it out like that. Let's give them a funny smile like that. But this is sometimes easier than manipulating these BZA points, okay? Another thing I probably want to do with this lame line, well, let's take a look at the stroke. So right in here for this stroke, hey, let's round the caps. Let's round the ends like that. And you could also round the corners. But let's give it that smooth roundedness like that. And keep in mind, it does look like an alien. I agree. Ha, Anna, I dig it. Looks like an alien. Canvas size really doesn't matter right now. I think I have it at, I'm trying to think of the actual size that I did these. Let's take a look at it. Canvas size, to answer your question, is 1024 by 1024. So there you have it, Dennis. So again, it does look like an alien. I could always adjust the eyes a little bit. I probably want to stretch it out a little more. That's a little bit more like a happy face. It's also slanted a little too much. I could obviously adjust that as well. But let's get back to the smiley face, okay? First of all, note that it has a gradient on it. You can have gradients on strokes, and that's what I have. But let's take this a step further. I want to actually use the width tool, okay, off to the side, using the width tool. Using the width tool, I can say, hey, you know what, make it thicker at this point, like that, okay? Again, I can using the width tool, make it thicker here, and then thinner on the ends. So I have that full control when I use the width tool, all right? And again, that just works out pretty well. Easy enough, right? There's my fun little happy face. From here, of course, I'd probably add more of a gradient to the fill. I'll do that really fast. Boom. Wait for it. Wait for it. as I change this color. Something like that. Okay, putting this at any angle that I want, okay? But again, this isn't custom at all. I just made a happy face. I'd move beyond this, guys. The stroke weight at the bottom of the circle bigger. Shard, you want me to do that? I can do that. Let's do it. That might give it a little more depth. So right down here. Increasing the size there and maybe making it a little thinner at the top. Something like that. Unless you're thinking it's actually more like a shadow or to where there's some depth to where you can see the side. You can do that. But this gets into style stuff. So let's just take a look. Because I'm going to go in here to my Creative Cloud Libraries panel. Okay, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to take a look at what is out there. I can say, hey, you know, let's just search Adobe Stock for emojis. And I can make sure that they are vectors. So give me all the vector emojis. You can see them all here. Look at all of these standard ones that I can get. Okay, so I might actually use one of these and I can save a preview or license and save it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm licensing and saving it to miscellaneous. Yeah, why would you just make a circle for the eye, Hassan? I actually would. I'll show you. I'll show you some more advanced stuff. So, what up, T White? T White's in the house. Hey, buddy. They are. I'm actually back in the audio room, and because they're actually working on the studio, guys. So we have some big things coming from Adobe concerning live streaming. So super excited about it, but that's why I'm not in the big room next door. All right, so there it is. Here's my set of emoticons. Opening that up, and you can see how these guys were put together in a similar fashion, right? We can take a look at these even closer. Okay, but it's nice that I can go ahead and just use, you know, basically one credit and get all of these emojis. And that's what I would do. I'd use pieces of these, because what do we need? We need excited emoji, right? We need a laughing emoji, smiling emoji, emoji winking, right? And all that stuff, okay? And that's what I would do. I would take those and I'd combine them with, say, my Groot, for instance. Here's my Groot. Let's make Groot feel the love. You know, and I could use those eyes right here. So I'd probably take these eyes. And use them accordingly. You guys get the idea. But let's take a look at sort of taking a graphic and turning it into that emoji style, okay? I want to take an illustration and make it, sort of give it that emoji style, because emoji is a style, right? It's these hearts and these things like that, okay? What's up, Tackle Boys? Good to see ya. Satsu, how are you doing? What's up? Oh, there we go. Gus is much easier. Thank you, Gus. Haha. Let's take a look at this, guys, and you guys are probably gonna think that I have some big ego, and I don't, because I'm just a guy trying to get by. I actually made this on the stream. Let's bring this up a little bit. Sorry, some of this might have gotten cut off. Oh yeah, I can shrink all of this somewhat, so you guys can see it a little better. Let's take it down, take it down. There we go, you guys could see everything a little better. But essentially, I made this on the on Facebook's Illustrator page. So go to Facebook, like Adobe Illustrator, because that's where I did this. I made this live, but I'm like, okay, well, I want to turn me into an emoji. So how would we do that? Okay, does that sound good, guys? But let me answer this question. Yeah, Amit is asking for gradient techniques for a 3D face look. You want some depth, essentially, is what you're talking about. We can easily do that. Another question about. So, yeah, I can take a look at the 3D sort of face look. Is there a way to remove the width from the line that you have applied without having to delete the stroke and redo? Yes, let's do that actually. Let me jump back into that file. If I can hunt it down. Here it is, right here. This guy. So notice how it has, let's go in here. Using the width tool, and maybe I was adding some depth, obviously some 3D-ness. Once this is selected, I can hit delete. If I want to remove that width right there, hit delete. Or I can come up here to these profiles, okay? And I can say, hey, you know what? I want to clear it all out and just make it uniform. Click, and now I've made it all uniform, okay? So that's how you get rid of sort of these custom widths that you do, okay? And keep in mind, this is good in general. I know people, we had a live stream this week, and it was Jeanette Liao. She did a lot of drawing with the pencil, and then she changed her stroke to this width profile, and that would allow her to let's change this like that, have some, oh jeez, it would allow her to sort of draw and give them hair like I'm doing right now. So this actually looks a little bit more like hair than, in fact, I can actually even use the pen tool. Doesn't really matter if it's something that you can draw with, like the pen tool or the pencil tool or brush. But now, again, she would use the pen tool or pencil and use that stroke like that. All right, guys, let's move on. I'm making crazy hair on this guy. Doesn't make sense. So again, you could use brush strokes as well. In general, right here, selecting the brush tool, drawing. If I select it, notice how it's a single path. It's flat, uniform. I also have access to sort of give it some texture like this, obviously. So from here, I can also control, its thickness and then whether I make it uniform or not. So I could actually kind of make all of these strokes that way by applying this charcoal feather brush and changing those various settings. Sure, why not? Crazy hair, huh? Ah, David, you were too kind, man. But let's get on, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take this. I said, okay, let's turn me into an emoji. And again, I already showed you guys how to do this illustration. It's kind of based on a photo, and what do? Everything takes time. What is this made up of? Of a bunch of gradients, but it's too much of a self-portrait. I'm thinking, okay, I would actually like to make this look more like an emoji. So say, for instance, even these eyes, right? Look at those eyes right here. Let's find my eyebrows. There they are. Typically what you do, if you even wanted to turn yourself into a Disney character, it means increasing your eye size 2 to 3 times. Looks like I missed something, but let's grab these. I'll go about easily 200% for my eyes and drop them right in there. Those might be a little big, but I'm easily doubling the size of my eyes to give them that fun emoji look, okay? Right? Taking some of these properties and essentially exaggerating them, right? The eyebrows are something else that I can change. Yes, T. White. Terry did one today as well. I think you were on the Creative Cloud channel, man. I'm sorry I missed it. But been working on the studio in here. So again, just exaggerating some of these features. You could see how some of these are made. Somebody mentioned eyes earlier. So again, I will take this. So since I sized this up, what's one thing we have to keep in mind if we're sizing up this content? Well, I would take a look at your preferences. If I go into preferences, general, right in here, scaling, stroke, and effects. So we want to make sure that's turned on. So when I do scale up these eyes, all the strokes and effects scale up with it. Otherwise, it will get distorted. Even now, these are still a little thin, so I can increase the size just like that. Okay. For these eyebrows, and I'll get to that. First, let me exaggerate the features, then we'll have some fun. We'll turn these, guys, I could turn this into a, I could turn these into an actual font. I can make this a color font in Photoshop. So that's kind of the thing I'm into lately. Yes, one does have eyeliner. I get it. But that's the cool thing about faces. Like, everything isn't perfectly symmetrical. And when I actually made this portrait, it wasn't perfectly symmetrical, you know. But I would go in. If I wanted to make it look like that, what I can do is I can thicken up that stroke. But I'm like, well, I'd like to manipulate the bottom part of the stroke. Well, I would go in, I would say path, you know what? Let's outline that stroke. Let's make it a shape instead, okay? And now look at all of these different points. It's a little crazy, right? Well, I could take any stroke once I've outlined it, and we can simplify it as well, okay? So I can say, hey, you know what? Let's preview. Let's make this more simple or less simple. But that's how we take a stroke and we give it more points, so then we can control it, attaching, you know, that to that part to make it look like I have fancy eyeliner, okay? Another thing I'm doing here is I'm holding down the Alt key, and that will break that Bezier point, right? So typically if I grab it, let's do it with another one, like this point, these Beziers are tied together, right? If I want to break it, hold down the Alt key, and I could break that from that one and give myself more of an acquisitive look. But what I'd want to do is I'd want to bring that over here like this, hold down the Alt key, do that, hold down the Alt key, do something kind of like that, right? So again, just quick tips for using the, you know, manipulating Beziers. There we are. Let's increase the size of the mouth, do all that stuff. Hello from Ghana. Good to see you. Good to see you, my friend. Where's everybody else from? Anna, where do you live? Kind of just curious. Right on. Yes. So to answer Herbert, to answer your questions, like we are here for you beginners. So I'm kind of interested in trying to get you up to speed, right? So again, here's regular Paul, here's emoji Paul. Okay? Done and done. Cool. New York's in the house, Egypt, Belgium, love your waffles. I'm sure you get that all the time. Mexico, Sweden, Netherlands, UK, Oakland, you're just across the bay from me, buddy. Texas, I'll be there in a couple weeks. New York, Morocco, I love Morocco. It's always like in my top 3 of places that I tell people are one of my favorite places to be. All right, let's talk about expressions too. Keep it coming. I'll still be doing shout outs. All right. Vancouver, you're just north of me. What's up, Snort? Designs make the ears smaller? What's up? You think I have big ears? Oh, I'm so offended. Just kidding. Hattibad, I don't know where that is. Bangladesh, Denmark, awesome. All right, guys, cool to see where you guys are from. I'll read those off some more. But what I want to actually do to make myself more expressive, a lot happens with the eyebrows, okay? Easily. In fact, I can select any shape, and I can go into Object, since we want to make them more exaggerated. I can do an envelope distort, and I can make with warp or make with mesh. Okay, if I select mesh, I'm going to do like 2 and 2, but basically it's going to divide this up because I want to be able to arch the middle. Okay, so that's why I am doing, say, 2 and 2. I could actually do 1 and 1 and it would be fine, but clicking right there, and now I can come in here and grab this and curve it up like that. Even if it was my eyes or whatever, I can, you know, make it look that I have sort of more of an inquisitive look in this for this little piece right here. Something like that. Envelope distort. All right, let's move on. Not bad. Actually needs more work. It's fine. Let's make some more of these. Remember, the canvas is 1024 by 1024. Maybe this is my default look, and I want to duplicate it. Okay, so I've used the artboard tool, selecting it. Znord Designs, I think you're smart, man. I think that sounds good. I think, you know, making the ears smaller, you're right. I think it will, like, make my other features look more exaggerated. I think that's actually a great idea. Yeah, sorry you can hear me clicking around on my mouse. It's kind of the mic I have on my table. If I point it up, maybe that will help. It's like a directional. So using a tablet or a mouse, honestly, whatever it takes to get the job done. If you can afford a Wacom and work more naturally than a mouse, that'd be great. But yeah, I just happen to be using a mouse, and that's okay. That's why I like live. I can actually make adjustments kind of based on what you guys say, and they're like, you know what, you need to make the ears smaller. Yeah, I can fix that, buddy. Something like that. Sure, why not? Okay, so let's move on. I want to start duplicating this content, using the artboard tool, selecting it, making sure this is selected up at the top. Move and copy artwork with artboards. That's what I do. I make sure everything is unlocked. I can hold down the Alt key, drag it over just like any other object, and I've duplicated this. So now I can have default, and then I can have excited. Right? I'm gonna do this really rough, guys. I'm gonna have to switch to my final one here pretty soon. You know, making the adjustments that I want, grabbing assets from this Adobe stock. Go into the eyes. I want to show you guys how to make color fonts, because I think that would be super dope. Don't laugh at my fat lip. Help us all. Look at that. Look at how ridiculous that is. That's ridiculous. I would open it up more and start adjusting. Zhoop. Swatches, you can see I've actually just kind of saved all these swatches for different skin tones. But change that to black. There's different ways to do this, but basically I'm making this, having this one gradient, making sure my top lip is one color. And just try to make my mouth look black and keeping my top lip color. It's kind of a weird way of doing things, but it's still going to work. All right, there we go. That works. I just had to fix that really fast. I'm obviously smiling a little bit more. I could probably add some bottom teeth. We all know how to do this stuff. Ears bigger, eyes really small, like holes in the snow. We could do mesh warp. Oh yeah, mesh warp would be a good way to work this out too. Again, I can always jump into that. Because for this mouth, again, if I just want to exaggerate something and I don't want to deal with moving these individual Bezier points around, typically this is my life doing this, like moving these points around, which is fine. But again, I can use other tools like the mesh warp. I might in this case. Okay. Did it? I think you guys can hear me clicking around still. Make with mesh. I'll do this 1 and 1. Okay. Boom. And I'm actually distorting the mouth now with these points based on this box. Okay, you guys kind of get the idea. Still needs work. All right, what questions do we have? Mesh with warp. After illustration, we're learning how to use these emojis on the phone as well. So using them on the phone, it's going to mean sort of turning these into images, but let's get to that point because I'm going to switch to the final one, which I have right here. Okay? I won't go quite as far as the phone, but the thing is, emojis are basically... they're a font. And if I have the font and somebody else doesn't have the font, that's the problem. So it's easier to send these as images. And that's how, say, iPhone works. Is it's basically an app that adds a keyboard that has those images in it. I'm not going to go that far, but we can get closer, okay? So let's do this. Here's Happy Paul, Sad Paul, different versions. You guys get the idea. Coming over here, I'd probably use Creative Cloud libraries. I'll just create a new library, called it Emoji. And then take these images. So here we have default. Boom. Again, this is done in Illustrator, but I'm going to move into Photoshop here in a second too. Here's another. I'll just do 3. What I would suggest is actually buying emojis, like an emoji set, because honestly, I don't want to have to worry about crafting the hearts and the tears and all that myself. I literally spent 1 credit and I got all the emotions. So here's a couple. Let's do sad. I'm kind of curious what emoji you guys find like your favorite. Do you guys like have an emoticon that you guys use a lot? I like the fancy lady. The lady's like this. I don't know if you can see me. She's like, I'm fancy. She has a fancy hand. And then the smiley face that is crying. That one's super fun. So I haven't made that one yet, but I would love to. Dang it, I wish I had time. Excited, sad, default. Okay, there's our start. That's actually being synced. I can jump into Photoshop. So to answer your question, Jurgenman, you do assign it to a letter, and you could use Photoshop or Illustrator. I've just gotten to use the Illustrator or the Photoshop panel, but it's going to require this extension. So even in Illustrator, if I go to extensions, I purchased Font Self Maker. Okay, so that's going to be this extension, Font Self Maker. It's launching now. It's opening up in another screen. Here's one that I've made. Let's ignore that. But Font Self Maker is available in Illustrator and in Photoshop. Here I have Photoshop is where I started adding more details. So that's what I'd use, Font Self Maker. The reason I'm using Photoshop is because Photoshop now has color fonts. And this is how you'd make a color font. Again, extension, Font Self Maker in Photoshop. Here it is. And I'm only going to go for a couple, like 5 more minutes, guys. Just a couple more minutes. Font Self Maker is right here. I have all my assets right in here. If I just change this to emoji, there's the default. Wait for it, wait for it. Reveal all. That's really weird. What is going on here? Image size. Uh, 1024 by 1024. That's the size I'm going with. Disregard that stretched out look. Let's get rid of those. Drop them in here. Font Self Maker, select this default and type any character. I'll just say D for default and create glyph. Boom, there it is. So there's the D for default. Again, the emojis, it doesn't really matter. Like, we'll have a stack of them. I do that again, even excited. The key thing is you do have to actually drag it. I could actually drag it into my library. That'll be even easier. Placing it in my library. For excited, I can make it E, boom, right? Create glyph, and now I've made 2. Right down here with Font Self Maker, I can adjust the kerning, right? So I can give it more spacing if I don't want the heads to be too close to one another, okay? But I did D, E, we'll do one more. We'll do S for sad. Aw, sad Paul. S, create. You feeling evangelized there, Herbert? If you're exporting the font from Photoshop, don't you have a resolution problem when you blow it up? Yeah, if you blow it up to say 2000. Right now it's 1024 by 1024. I'd have to double check on Font Self Maker's size, but I could have swore hopefully I used the correct size. I could have swore I used one of their templates and it was around that size. In fact, if you give me a second, I could probably dig it up. It might take a little bit of time. Opening up this file. Here's their artboard, and yeah, so we can kind of take a look at the size in here, but this is the size that they have them set. Only 1.5 1¼ inches for these sizes. That's what Font Self Maker has. But anyways, let me just go ahead and export this out. We'll call it the Paul font. Clicking OK. Putting it on my desktop. And now I made a font with 3 letters. Okay, remember this is a color font, so that's super cool. Going to my desktop. Yep. Here it is. From there, installing that font. And in this case, what I'm doing is I can use this font anywhere where color fonts are allowed. Okay, so getting that onto a device isn't gonna happen. It doesn't happen right now. Okay, but anytime I want to use Happy, Sad, Fun Paul, it's a matter of, you know, again, using that font like I'm gonna do right now. Okay, so I'll go D. Let's go into here, right here. Let's type in Paul. There it is, Paul font. And there it is, right? Boom. And then I could size it up. And this is why somebody said, hey, what about the size for this? It's actually looking pretty good. But, yeah, it was only 1.25 inches is the size of their icons. But now, look, I'm actually a font, the Paul font, and you guys get the idea. But anyways, a quick wrap up, guys. I've gone for 45 minutes. I do want to make you aware of the Disney emoji as told by you. It's a little partnership which essentially will possibly give you a chance to go to California and visit Disney Interactive and hang out with them. You do have to be between the ages of 18 and 24, and all you need to do is make one emoji, just one character, and submit it, okay? So it could be, again, any one of these. Could be even, you know, Groot, like I have right here. Feel the love, guys. Feel the love. Yeah, make it a smart object before enlarging. Agreed. Smart objects are our friends. Thank you so much, Ryan Ford. Good to see you in the house. Pearly Cream Cheese. I'm going to roll out Tim Snort Designs USA top two. What is that? Cool. Anna, you're too sweet. Still wondering where you live, where you're from, just kind of out of curiosity. Terry White, if you're still in the house, check out his tutorials. He has plenty of awesome things going on. But I thank you guys just for hanging out with me. This is, of course, being recorded, and I will probably see you on Monday. I will actually be on Facebook on the Illustrator page. But thank you so much for watching and tuning in, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much.